Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to WASA Distance Education and NBV3E or 3E. Uh, so today we are going to look at key question 13, and I have an assortment of videos and web pages we will use as resources that will be able to help you complete key question 13. Okay, so we'll get to those in a minute. Right now, we will take a look at the key question itself found on page 15. Okay, let's see. Key question 13 with 30 marks. Complete these questions in sentence form on your own paper. Check spelling and grammar before you submit them for evaluation. You may work You may word process for answers, but please use at least 12-point font for ease of marking. Make sure you had labeled the question with the unit, lesson, and key question number. So there's two questions involved in this key question. The first one is, what is expected of Aboriginal leaders? What qualities must they have to be good leaders? And number two, found on the following page. Research a leader either in your community or a well-known Aboriginal political leader and answer the following. A. How is this leader working towards the good of his or her people? B. How is he or she demonstrating good leadership? And C. What changes has he or she been responsible for within the Aboriginal community? Okay, so we'll come back to question number 2 later, but right now I have a few videos on leadership styles or good leadership styles, and they are specifically directed towards Aboriginal leaders because traditionally uh, a lot of Aboriginal leadership came from women, and we've looked at that a number of times in this course already. And so those qualities that are expressed, that the women exhibited throughout history in the Aboriginal communities, aren't just um, pertaining to women as leaders. These qualities are often thought as female qualities, um, but men can also practice these leadership qualities as well. In a lot of indigenous communities, these uh, leadership qualities are practiced normally as part of the curriculum. So we'll start off looking at some of these qualities, and that should help you with the answering of key question number 1. So where are we here? I'll find. We'll start off with this one. Canada History Week 2021 Indigenous Leadership found on YouTube. Better unmute it. And here, let's watch this.
I know an elder once said you could look at Indigenous leadership as standing in the middle of a circle and leading that circle, and everyone is at the same height as you lead forward. Indigenous people have a worldview that's very much about interconnectedness. And so when it comes to leadership, it's even included in that. So even in leading, there's still interconnectedness. So rather than leaving other pieces behind, an Indigenous leader will bring all those other pieces to the table, the connection to the land, spirituality, culture, language. That's all included in the way they lead and move their communities forward. If I could say what 3 words describe leadership to me, it's those 3: wisdom, courage, and humility. And humility is so important. And I often voice this that when I'm at tables and we're having discussions, is that if we can't, we need to be humble in order to hear other people and respect other people's voices. So I think it's really important to me in leadership.
Other leadership opportunities I've had is I have been able to be a part of the Indigenous Student Council since I've been in grade 6. And now, as one of the older members of the Indigenous Student Council, I really appreciate the opportunity to get to lead younger Indigenous students and help them out with navigating their way through a school where they are a minority. So I really appreciate getting to be the person they get to come to. To be a part of that history is really a great experience. I feel since our people really did not have this opportunity before, that it just makes it that much more important that we speak up and we be the voice for those who can't be heard. So I feel as if that we need to really do our part and speak up for the Indigenous community within the board and make sure that our concerns and our needs are met at a board level so that Indigenous students can really thrive within our school board and within our schools.
I think it's imperative that we include Indigenous history in our curriculum. When you think of the word history, you think of that word his story, and we have Canadian history in our curriculum, but we need Indigenous stories in our curriculum. And I think about the word truth. We need a truthful history. We need the real history. And I think that was really recently brought to light with the recent awareness of residential schools, the horrific discoveries. And it really brought to mind, to me, the imperative need to start educating people.
So within the past few years that we do have these positions now to stand up and speak out, it's really important to just show everyone and non-Indigenous people that yes, we still are here and we do have our concerns that need to be addressed. And I feel like it's really important to also have these roles because it gives students within our board representation, because as a minority it can get really lonely and you can feel as if you're the only one. So I feel as if it gives students someone to reach out to and talk to.
It's about relationship building, collaboration. It's more of a facilitation instead of a directional type of way to lead. And it's very much about consensus building.
Thank you so much for having us here today. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak out and talk to everyone here today, so I really appreciate it.
Miigwech for letting us have the opportunity to share our voice on Canada's History Week. And Bamapi.
Okay, so that is actually put up by the York Regional School Board, which is way down there by Toronto, eh? And so, there's Indigenous students everywhere in the heavily populated southern part of Ontario and stretching right across. They mentioned that the Indigenous students are a minority there. Yes, of course, um, they are because the communities are smaller. Not like here in Sioux Lookout, right? Indigenous students may be a majority as people are moving down from the communities to Sioux Lookout, and the kids are moving down here, and um, the and don't forget about schools like Pelican and DFC, which are totally populated by Indigenous students. So well over 50%, I would guess, and That would be in the majority percentages. So a little different, but basically the whole thing about the public boards accepting uh, part of the request by the Truth and Reconciliation. Um, anyways, so I think they were bang on with the leadership, how Indigenous leadership is different from, let's say, male dominated corporate leadership that is prevalent in many other places. Um, I have another video then put out by a woman named Mallory Rose, 7 Ways I Learned Leadership from Indigenous Women. Since we are, uh, since we have in the past discussed the important roles of Indigenous women in leadership, we can uh, think about the thoughts and ideas that this woman has, and she just doesn't get them out of the air. I mean, these are well known leadership styles that are the common way of making things happen in Indigenous communities. So let's watch this.
Did you know Superwoman is Indigenous? The proportion of Indigenous women who are superwomen is very high. I'm gonna tell you exactly why women in Indigenous communities are often found in leadership roles and environments where leadership is not a surprise. It's not a big deal for women to be leaders of the family, leaders of the community, leaders of a group or organization. It's almost an expectation. Hello, thank you for watching. Thank you for being here in today's video. My name is Mallory. I'm an Anishinaabe from Curve Lake First Nation in Ontario. And today we're going to be talking about Indigenous women leadership roles and how it is not a surprise and not a big deal for women to be leaders. Maybe other backgrounds and other genders can learn from some of these teachings and apply them to leadership styles that could benefit a wide variety of situations, groups, organizations, and opportunities. So stay tuned till the end so you can learn all of the things. Chimigwech. Indigenous societies have recognized the importance of women in leadership roles for centuries. Historically, many Indigenous North American tribes were matriarchal, meaning that lineage and inheritance were traced through the mother. These women were and have been entrusted with decision-making roles that affect the entire community, from governance to spiritual guidance and much more. Women have been the keepers of traditions, the protectors of culture, and very important agents of social cohesion, making sure that everyone in the community is connected and living in harmony. Indigenous teachings specific to women often revolve around the principles of creation, connection, and balance. These teachings often emphasize the unique roles and responsibilities that women have in our communities as life givers, as caretakers, and as keepers of knowledge and wisdom. Women are the heart of our families, our communities, and we embody strength, resilience, and nurturing. We're often seen as guardians of the water and guardians of the land and sacred sites, playing a crucial role in passing down traditions, language, cultural practices to our youth and to future generations. These teachings also highlight the importance of respecting the natural world and all living beings. Women's teachings can help us to foster a deep sense of belonging and interconnectedness between the individual, our community, and our natural environment around us. Let's talk about the background context of why Indigenous women are matriarchs. So quick personal story. I used to get annoyed and I would get the ick every time, whether it was in school or in corporate environments, in work environments, professional spaces. There was so much celebration and highlight, and they made a really big deal of women being in leadership roles and a lot of attention and kind of efforts toward equity being the driving force for helping women be either promoted or get opportunities just because they were a woman. And I think that deep down, in my subconscious, one reason why I might feel icky or annoyed in our communities traditionally, Indigenous women are the leaders. It's not a big deal. It's not something that needs to be equalized. Women in leadership roles is normal. That's like the expectation. The expectation for females in many Indigenous communities is very high. It's almost higher in some cases. I mean, there is a high expectation to be a leader and to lead your family and to provide for your children and to be successful. Now, why are Indigenous women leaders naturally? And leadership in Indigenous communities representing something completely different than in non-Indigenous spaces. The hierarchical structures commonly seen in Western societies is very, very different. It's deeply rooted in the values of collectivism, respect for nature, and communal well-being. Indigenous women are often seen as life givers, nurturers, and the leadership is an extension of these natural roles. Women lead not through dominating others, but through nurturing and sustaining life within our communities. So the approach to leadership itself is different within Indigenous communities, and specifically because of the care and empathy approach that Indigenous women can take to those positions of power. It's about embodying the principles and values that sustain a community. So here are some core aspects of Indigenous women's leadership. The first being a holistic vision. Indigenous women leaders view well-being as an interconnected web of physical, emotional, spiritual, and mental well-being. The understanding that sustainability and community well-being are interconnected and reliant on each other. There's a community-centric approach. So decisions are made with the entire community in mind and emphasize the importance of collective well-being over the importance of individual gain. Women also prioritize intergenerational wisdom. So Indigenous leadership involves passing down knowledge and traditions through generations and ensuring the continuity of cultural heritage with youth embracing and celebrating and keeping the culture alive. Resilience is also an important component of Indigenous leadership. So women having historically navigated enormous challenges can display resilience and adaptability that are essential traits of effective leadership. So this important component, being resilience, is only heightened and even more embraced within Indigenous women. Now, what is Indigenous women's leadership roles and what do they actually look like? What does this mean? So in practical terms, Indigenous women's leadership manifests in various forms. It takes place in many different tangible ways. The first being elders and knowledge keepers. So elders often serve as the spiritual and ethical guides for the community as a whole and preserve and share sacred knowledge to other members of the community. Women also hold healthcare roles in, more medical health and also traditional healing by embracing traditional medicines, knowledge of natural remedies that can ensure the health of all people and also the health of Mother Earth as well. These are just two of the initial leadership roles that women often play in communities. The third important role is in education and in advocacy. Many Indigenous women are at the forefront of education and advocacy. And it's important to note here that education in a colonial and Western system looks a lot differently than in the traditional Indigenous systems and the traditional education system and how knowledge is passed down through storytelling, through sitting around the fire and sharing with your children and your grandchildren, right? So working to preserve culture, languages, and understanding our rights as Indigenous people is a role that many Indigenous women play and are at the forefront of. Another big area of female leadership is in environmental conservation and in stewardship. So demonstrating sustainability practices that many modern societies can learn from. So now I'd like to share some ways that you can learn from Indigenous women leadership no matter what your background is. So understanding and incorporating some of these teachings of Indigenous women can offer some pretty valuable insights into improving your well-being and your community or your organization's well-being in other areas of leadership in today's world. So a few lessons that you can learn is embracing holistic well-being, balancing physical, emotional, spiritual, and mental health, recognizing that well-being is multifaceted and interconnected, and how it is a natural ability for women to feel and embrace and balance.
This powerful heater can heat up any
commercial,
room
sorry.
in seconds without the high electricity costs. Electricity suppliers don't want
Those 4 different areas of well-being. The next way that you can apply lessons in your own life is preserving your heritage. No matter what your cultural background is, valuing and maintaining your own cultural traditions and passing them on to your children, grandchildren, friends, youth, to future generations. Your heritage is a source of strength and a source of your identity. So lean into that, share that, celebrate that. Another incredible way that you can learn some lessons from Indigenous leadership and Indigenous female leadership style is leading with compassion. So effective leadership is rooted in empathy and understanding. And this is something that comes naturally and is very well received and embraced in Indigenous communities, but Western societies and kind of colonial organizations are a little bit resistant to this approach of empathetic leadership. So understanding the value of creating a circle of trust, creating an organization of trust and safety, and how that can be extremely valuable to people leadership, no matter whether you are talking about leading your family, leading a group or a team or an organization, an entire corporation, right? No matter what the size is that you are trying to lead, understanding the value in empathetic leadership can work absolute wonders. So listening to those that you lead and making decisions based on what is important to them, how they're feeling, and in understanding you can only go as far as the collective group can benefit from and that they are on board to achieve. The next way is fostering community. So prioritizing collective good and building a network of support and cooperation within your own community. Understanding that your well-being is connected to the well-being of those around you, right? The energy that you are circulating within your inner relationships at work, at home, at any extracurricular communities or environments that you're in is going to reflect and magnify again and again. The next way that you can apply some of these Indigenous women leadership teachings is to value intergenerational knowledge. Understand the importance of learning from the experiences and knowledge of older generations and applying them to modern day or innovative circumstances can work wonders, can really help your team or your community or your organization to grow if you are a leader and those are your goals. Valuing intergenerational wisdom is important to everyone who's on your team that you are leading or in your group that you're leading, and ensure that this wisdom is passed down to the up-and-comers, right? To the mentees of the situation, if you're the leader or if you are a youth, ensuring that you're asking those questions and that you're helping others in your organization to value intergenerational wisdom. Ensure that wisdom is passed down and preserved. Learn from Indigenous women leadership by cultivating resilience. Embrace challenges as opportunities for growth and develop the adaptability and strength to navigate the complexities of life. Prioritize sustainability and stewardship. So take responsibility for the environment and resources around you. Practice sustainability in all aspects of life. You can do this by making intentional and conscious choices that consider the long-term impact on the environment and on the land and water around you. Understand that true well-being includes the health of our Mother Earth and of our planet. Now, how can you learn from this to help yourself. These teachings and leadership styles of Indigenous women offer a wealth of knowledge that can profoundly impact women's well-being and leadership in today's society. By embracing a holistic well-being and understanding how that impacts leadership, how that impacts the greater group, fostering community, valuing intergenerational wisdom, and cultivating resilience, practicing stewardship of the land and environment, women of all backgrounds can find inspiration and guidance from this. Indigenous women of North America and tribal communities, First Nation communities, have long been the super women of their communities. So let's learn from the remarkable leaders that we've had in the past and integrate some of these teachings into our lives and communities. I'd love to know in the comments below which of these points resonate with you, if there's any consistencies or inconsistencies from what you have experienced or from what you've heard, or if you've learned something new that's interesting to you. Love to see your feedback and your thoughts on Indigenous women in leadership, on matriarchy, and how you feel it applies to women of other backgrounds or any gender at all, as we're talking about the different components and what makes leadership special and the importance, the breakdown of leadership, and how leaders can become better leaders and improve and do a good job in achieving the goals of the greater team, whether it's a society, a community, an organization, a team, a family, whatever the case may be in terms of what it is that you're leading. Thank you so much for watching.
Okay, so this is one woman's opinion, but these 7 ways of 7 qualities of leadership are definitely something worth thinking about overall with any leader, be it a man or a woman, or any other genre. The She speaks it out fairly clearly, and so I think that these 7 points could be discussed in answering the key question that we just highlighted on page 15. What do you think? If you have any thoughts about that, and just let me know, and we can discuss them further if you want. Now, the second question: research a leader, either in your community or a well-known Aboriginal political leader, and then answer the following questions. How is this leader working toward the good of his or her people? B, how is he or she demonstrating good leadership? And C, what changes has he or she been responsible for within the Aboriginal community? Well, I've picked a number of leaders. I started out with 2 huge organizations. There is Anishinaabe Aski Nation, often called NAN, the acronym, and also the AFN, the Assembly of First Nations. So the Assembly of First Nations is the governing body that connects all of the different First Nations all across Canada, right? And so the new leader of the AFN is a woman named Cindy Woodhouse. Okay, so I have the Wikipedia article on her up here on the screen. Let's read a little bit about her. It says right here, Cindy Woodhouse, born 1982 to 1983, is a Canadian First Nations from the Penei-Mutang First Nation. She's a politician and the current national chief of the Assembly of First Nations. So she is the leader of the AFN. Prior to being elected as the AFN National Chief, Woodhouse served as Manitoba Regional Chief from 2021 to 2023. And there's a part here on her early life and education. Woodhouse was raised on the Pene First Nation, spending half the week with her parents, Garnet and Lorette Woodhouse, and half the week with her grandmother, who gave her her religious education. Her father, Garnet Woodhouse, became chief of Pene First Nation when Woodhouse was 4 years old, a role he held for more than 40 years. So I guess it's in the family. Her great 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 grandfather, Richard Woodhouse, was a signatory of Treaty Number 2. Woodhouse often attended the Assembly of First Nation meetings with her parents. Oh, so she's been at it since she's been a very young toddler. uh, Woodhouse attended the Anglican-run Little Saskatchewan Day School, where she and her classmates faced almost borderline abuse. She later attended Fairford School, where she received better treatment. Woodhouse's mother was the principal of her high school. Woodhouse transferred to a different school, Astra and Central School, because she was tired of being around her mother. Well, it'd be pretty hard to have a mom for a principal, you know. That's a tough job, and I had a mother who was a teacher, and I found I struggled with that myself. Uh, Woodhouse attended the University of Winnipeg, where she earned a Bachelor of Arts degree. While there, she and a small group of 15 or 20 others started a march for missing and murdered Indigenous women. Her political career, Woodhouse met Paul Martin. He was once Prime Minister of Canada, through her father, and came with them to on Martin's campaign for Prime Minister. After graduating from university, she joined Justin Trudeau's campaign in 2009 and continued working for him until 2015. So she does have a lot of political relationship with the federal part of the government. Um, okay, so that's all I'm going to cover in Wikipedia for now. Now, so I will continue on here with, let's see, this short video on her being elected the AFN National Chief from a segment of Power and Politics. So let's watch this, okay?
After a 6-ballot contest, the Assembly of First Nations has elected a new national chief.
We would like to welcome new National Chief Cindy Woodhouse.
I feel like we have a lot of work to do. We have to get to work. So I'm going to get to work in an hour. I'm just going to, but we have a lot of work to do. Our people are waiting.
Cindy Woodhouse secured the victory when runner-up David Pratt conceded. She follows former National Chief Roseanne Archibald, who was ousted earlier this year following harassment allegations and 2 regional chief-led revolts. The CBC's Olivia Stefanovich joins me now. She has been following this election and covers this beat for us. So, Olivia, Cindy Woodhouse is there. What do we know about her priorities? What are the big issues she wants to deal with as National Chief?
Yeah, well, David, Woodhouse says she wants to unify the Assembly of First Nations, which is going to be a difficult job after the ouster of Roseanne Archibald as National Chief. Woodhouse was actually on the executive committee that recommended Archibald's removal following misconduct allegations that surfaced. So there's been a lot of divisions, fractures within this national advocacy organization following that. And Woodhouse, in her victory speech today, she actually mentioned Archibald by name, saluting her for breaking the glass ceiling for female leaders like her to be able to take the helm of the Assembly of First Nations. So Woodhouse is trying to move beyond those tensions and unify all the chiefs together, even the ones who disagree with that decision by the executive committee. But of course, there will be many challenges, except, there is a lot of work that she is able to work on already because she has relationships with the federal government. She's worked on the child welfare negotiations, securing a $23 billion settlement for First Nations people across the country. So she says she will get to work right away. She's known as a collaborator, someone who can work with chiefs, with government. And I can tell you from my experience interviewing her over the years, she is the type of person who, if you give her a call, she will not only connect you with somebody who you're looking for to do an interview with, but 5 other chiefs who will talk about it. So she's just that type of person, David.
Okay, well, she's going to need those collaboration skills, though, to fix the internal politics of the AFN, as you say, because it's been a tough year. But we saw some sort of an agreement, right? David Pratt conceded because you needed 60% to win, and neither one of them seemed like they were going to get there. So what do we know about what happened between the last 2 candidates to lead to National Chief Woodhouse?
Well, there was an incredible moment this morning. So we got word that there was an agreement this morning between the 2 sides, and both of them walked together. They were actually holding hands with the interim national chief in the middle, and they walked together and entered the convention hall. And then David Pratt, the Saskatchewan candidate, he conceded to Woodhouse. Our understanding, David, is that there was an agreement that was reached in the early hours of the morning after the Assembly stopped voting last night. The votes went to a 6th ballot. Cindy Woodhouse had 50% of the votes, and Pratt had about 40%. And you need to achieve 60% in order to become the national chief, according to the AFN's charter. So it was clear that it was going to be a long struggle for one of these candidates to reach that amount of support. So the 2 sides did come together at some point in the early hours. We understand that they actually hugged, and there is an agreement here for Pratt to work with Woodhouse on child welfare to prevent the removal of Indigenous children from their homes.
Okay, well, maybe we're seeing those collaboration skills being put to use already. Olivia Stefanovich, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, so that's let's see, that was put out in, how long ago was that now? Generally, there's a date here. Oh, oops, I pressed the wrong button.
After a 6 ballot contest, the Assembly of First...
He already said that. Okay. All right, so I think that just happened this year, actually. So I don't have the month on here when exactly this election was. Yeah, but fairly recent. Yeah. Okay. Oh, December 7th. Oh, so that would be roughly a year ago. Yeah. So December 7th, 2023. Okay. All right. So that is Cindy Woodhouse. So she is an exemplary of a great leader. Anybody who becomes the Grand Chief of an organization of like AFN has demonstrated that they are exceptional leaders and that they are well experienced in their portfolios. That is the issues that they need to deal with to make things go forward. Okay, and now there's another longer one here on her explaining her issues, or the issues that she's going to tackle. I don't think we have enough time for that today because, but maybe tomorrow we'll put that on. Now we're going to talk about NAN, which is a more local organization that covers all of the area that we live in, or north of us here, all the way up to Hudson's Bay. Right? So what First Nations are in NAN? Right? There they are all right there. So just a little bit of out of Sioux Lookout, south of Sioux Lookout. So I guess that number 7 would be Oh, it's so small here. I think that would be Laxul. Yes, number 7. See? So anything down towards Dryden or Kenora or Thunder Bay is a different treaty area. And they, from my understanding, is that they don't have a large organization like NAN to unify the different First Nations that stretch down between, looks pretty well from Ottawa to Sudbury, along the lake shore there, northern Lake Superior, Thunder Bay, Dryden, and Kenora, right? But we do have all the communities that are north of here pretty well, right? And further east, uh, lots of communities there that are a part of NAN, right? Let's see. Can't make out all of the. These are all the tribal councils here. Independent, um, the Independent First Nations Alliance. I can't read that one. Manawa, Shibugama, Wendigo. I don't know what that says. Wabum? Wabum. Uh, and I can't make out the other ones. They must be further east. We are familiar with a number of the tribal councils that have offices here in Sioux Lookout. I think I don't see Northern Chiefs there. Maybe it probably has a different name. Um, anyways, so there are all the communities right there. Okay, so we'll just back up here. So the NAN Executive Council consists of the Grand Chief and 3 Deputy Grand Chiefs. Chief Grand Chief Alvin Fiddler was reelected in August 2024. And there they are. There's all their pictures. Alvin Fiddler, Grand Chief Anna Betty Achinopanskum, Achinopanskum, and Deputy Grand Chief Bobby Narcissi, and Deputy Grand Chief Mike Metatawabin. Sorry for the pronunciation. Let's just take a look at Grand Chief Alvin Fiddler here, okay? Because he's from our area, Muskrat Dam. He's a member of the Muskrat Dam First Nation. Alvin was acclaimed as Grand Chief during the Kiwewin Conference on August the 16th, 2023. He previously served as the NAN Grand Chief from 2015 to 2021 after several terms as Deputy Grand Chief. After studying business management at the University of Lethbridge, Alvin served as executive director of the Tommy Beardy Memorial Family Treatment Center in Muskrat Dam from 1990 to 1993, then deputy chief of Muskrat Dam from 1993 to 1998. He was health director at Anishinaabe Aski Nation from 1998 until first his election to the Executive Council in 2003. Most recently, he served as Health Transformation Lead and Negotiator for NAN's Health Transformation Process from 2021 to 2023. He has served with the Truth and Reconciliation Commission and provided leadership in several provincial justice initiatives. Alvin currently resides in Thunder Bay with his wife Tessa and 2 children. All right, so now we're going to quickly look at, this is a short video. Okay, so this is Alvin talking, Alvin Fiddler, about the number of the alarming number of deaths by suicide in Anishinaabe Asking Nation territory. So it's 5 minutes long here. We'll just have enough time for that. Let's watch Alvin talk about this issue.
Fiddler, great to have you here in studio with us to talk about such a difficult subject. Can you give us a sense of just how big of a crisis this is?
Well, just to show or tell your audience about just how urgent this is. Just last week when we were in Ottawa, last Wednesday, having this very important discussion with senior officials, federal ministers. The next day, we were having a debrief in the meeting room, and when I got a phone call from one of our communities that another young girl had taken her life that morning. So, as we're having these important discussions and doing this important work, that we are losing our youth, our children. And to me, that just spoke to just how serious this is and how urgent this is.
Do you have a sense of what some of the root causes behind this crisis are?
Yeah, I don't think we can point to one or two reasons why we are losing so many of our youth to suicide, but we do know that there's the tragic, the violent colonial history that all of us carry, with the forced removal of our children to residential schools, and also through the child welfare system, and also in the Nan territory, and I know in northern Manitoba as well. We also have the legacy of the church and the pedophile that they employed in the 70s and 80s, named Ralph Rowe, who was also a Boy Scout leader and was also given a plane to travel to many of our communities, and the number of children that he abused in the 20 years that he worked in our territory. So we have all these things that have happened to our children and families, and a lot of that you can point to, what we're seeing now with just the sexual abuse and the violence that we're seeing is rooted in so many of those things that have happened to our people over these many generations.
As you mentioned, there was that emergency meeting last week with First Nations leaders and the federal government. Did you come out of that meeting feeling hopeful?
I think so. I think it was good, first of all, just to bring together senior officials from the federal government, and we did also have some of our leadership there as well, and some of our experts, to have this very important discussion to, first of all, talk about the need for immediate relief, which is something that our chiefs have been asking for because of the numerous losses that we've suffered over the last few months in the Nan territory. That our communities are tired, that they've depleted the resource that they have to work with to try to support their children and youth and families, that we need to have a surge in supports, immediate surge in supports to support our leadership as they grapple with this epidemic.
Grant Chief, as you mentioned, the need for immediate relief, what do you see as the next steps here?
Yeah, that's what we're working on right now, is what does that immediate relief look like? So we're looking at, for example, human resources, to have trained mental health workers go to our communities to provide relief for the staff that are there that need a break, that need a rest, but also financial relief. A lot of our communities expressed, for example, that they've spent so much of their own money, which they don't necessarily have. They're not funded for crisis supports, but they've had to spend money to support families that are in these crisis situations. For example, one of our communities, one of our smaller communities, over the last year spent around 1.3 million on crisis supports, and they don't have that in their budget. They just have a small core band support funding, and so they need financial relief as well. so that they can effectively deal with crisis events as they happen in their communities.
And Grand Chief Fiddler, again, appreciate you taking some time for us here today to discuss
Thank you for
this.
the invite.
Okay, so there is another very important leader, Alvin Fiddler. So we've looked at two organizations, but in your community, there's also chiefs and band council members and other leaders, elders, and that's how you may decide to answer that question, because it doesn't have to be one of the big political leaders. It could be someone within your community as well, and that has demonstrated good leadership and within the local community. So that's about it for today. We've gone over a little bit, but it was important for you to recognize and to reflect on leadership and the importance of good leaders. And we'll continue on tomorrow and with Lesson 14. Thanks very much for being with us this evening, and we will talk to you again 24 hours from now tomorrow. Bye for now.